What was your "this person is on another level of stupid" moment? I locked my purse with my keys and cell phone in my apartment. I went to the office to ask maintenance to let me in. The woman at the desk said she would call maintenance and asked for a phone number they could reach me at. I said there wasn't one because my cell phone was locked in my apartment. She insisted she needed a number. I said I could give her the number, but that I wouldn't be able to answer if they called. She suggested I get my phone out of my apartment so that I could answer when they called. I rolled my eyes at her and said if I could get in my apartment to get my cell phone I wouldn't need maintenance to let me in. She never did understand me, but maintenance did show up 10 minutes later. Reminds me of the time my cell phone completely died. Wouldn't power on even if I charged it, so I called Apple support. Guy asked what's wrong with my phone. I told him it won't turn on. He asks me to power it on so we could troubleshoot. I tell him it won't turn on. He sighs and tell me he won't be able to diagnose the problem if I won't cooperate and power on my phone for him. Question mark, question mark, question mark. To be fair to that guy, he's probably used to the type of people that think their phone shuts off when the screen goes to sleep. I hate calling customer support for any technical issues. The first 10 minutes of me saying I did that already, but I'll do it for you again. I once worked in a Midwestern grocery store deli, and I was trying to explain to a woman that the name brand and generic brand of the macaroni salad that we carried were in fact identical. The woman yelled at me saying she could only have the generic brand because one is made with mayo and the other is made with mayonnaise, and I don't like mayo. When I tried to explain that mayo is an abbreviation of mayonnaise, she just said I'm from the South, I know my food, and tutted away. She is going to be in for a shock when she goes to the pharmacy for her prescription of mayonnaise. I got a concussion a while back. A friend of mine told me not to come close because it might be contagious. They weren't kidding. A girl in my school had gotten about 3 concussions within a year, and when she hit her head the 4th time and blacked out for a minute, refused to go to the doctor because last time they said if I got another concussion it could cause brain damage, so I'm not going to let them give me another one. I think the 3rd one might have done it for her. Ex-flatmate cancelled the gas and electricity contract because it was too expensive. Wondered why we had no more electricity nor gas. She thought we paid €90 a month to get a hotline 24/7 in case of problem. I was friends with a couple who only had enough money to pay either the cable bill or the electricity. They paid the cable. A couple days later the power was turned off. Reminds me of choosing drink over toilet paper. I worked at a restaurant and we had a dish that was just a whole grilled chicken chopped into pieces. A woman who ordered for delivery called us, absolutely scathing, complaining that her order of 1 whole chicken only contained 2 chicken breasts. Had to explain to grown-ass woman that chicken only have 2 breasts. She wanted some of that Total Recall chicken. Make her wish she had 3 mouths. I worked at a pet store in college. This customer asked me which food would make his pit bull swole. I suggested a high protein food with a good amount of exercise, but advised that a lot of it was determined by the dog's genetics. He asked me if we sold genetics. Dude, you're so dumb. One genetics is like $5. Why didn't you give the man his 2 geneticses? Geneticy actually. Rescued a coworker on the side of the road with a flat tire, waiting for the tow truck. I pointed out the nail at the top of their tire. They scoffed and looked at me like I was the stupidest person in the world and exclaimed, "That's not true, BC, it's flat at the bottom." I just walked away and never brought it up again. Gosh, what an idiot. Nails are always flat on the top, except those pesky left-handed nails. I had a bucket of nails one time that was almost 50% left-handed. I was friends with a guy who believed those fake Apple adverts like Apple Wave microwave your phone for instant battery charge. I was so dumbfounded that he actually fell for it. When I saw him the week after and he had a new phone, it all clicked for me. At least he's got the money to fund his idiocy. Not everyone that buys a new phone every year can actually afford it. My wife's cousin and her husband / not baby daddy of her unborn child fell on self-induced hard times and needed a place to stay for a bit. We set up a queen-sized air mattress in the living room for them. For 3 weeks I woke up to go to work, and every morning saw them sleeping on it sideways with their legs hanging off the edge. Then one day she asked me to buy her a bigger air mattress, because this one was hard on their backs. I told her to turn her body, the thing even has a built-in pillow on one end. Her response was that then they couldn't see the TV. Then turned the air mattress to face the TV. That's the story of how I became an asshole to the trailer trash side of the family. The bad part is that it's only one of many stories. The husband was a cook at Applebee's. The baby daddy was a cook at Applebee's, and her new husband was another cook from the same Applebee's, all working together. Did she also work at Applebee's? Also, was this in Crosby, Texas by chance? I've heard some messed up stuff about that Applebee's. Yes, she was a hostess. No, not Crosby, but you are scary close. Like uncomfortably close. I used to work with a girl who was sweet but so dumb. We were in a meeting once and somehow someone mentioned baked ham. My manager said, "Ugh, I hate ham. It looks like human flesh." The girl I mentioned was sitting next to me and looked horrified and whispered, "Does ham really come from people?" I'd be more worried about the manager that knows what cooked human flesh looks like. When I served in the King's African Rifles, the local Zambezi tribesmen called human flesh long pig. Never much cared for it. I was once asked how it felt to come to the US as a refugee. I'm from Germany. She then looked rather surprised when I told her that Hitler has been dead for 75 years and that Germany is one of the more liberal countries in the world these days. She full on thought I fled Nazi Germany. Back in 99 over 2000 I was in the US with my German girlfriend at the time and we convinced my roommates that Germans live in Tupis. Some wigwams already had power but not all. My good friend is from Estonia, did the same trick in Germany, calm. Anyways, he was in a bar waiting for me, chatting with his girlfriend in Estonian, and as the language is not really known, the neighboring table asked him about their origins. You know, everybody is a little bit more relaxed after few drinks, plus he is fluent in German to reply. Once I got to the pub, he had persuaded the table next to him that Estonia has no electricity, that he communicates with me through post and they borrowed neighbors' horses to visit me in Germany. Spent 7 years working for TSA. Had a pretty sweet detail where I would assist passengers who did not have ID or assist SAG agents if they had questions about the validity of the given ID. I get a call on the radio asking for assistance in verifying an ID. I come over and ask what the issue is. Agent hands me a driver's license and says, "Can't accept this Canadian ID." Hearing this, I assume it's expired or the wrong name. I take a look and see that it is an Alaska driver's license. I quickly approve the passenger and send them on their way. I then spent 10 minutes explaining that Canadian DLs are acceptable according to TSA regulations and Alaska has never been a Canadian territory. This coworker has a master's degree in mathematics and served 25 years in the US Air Force. It's dumbfounding how people can be so high functioning in some areas and leave you bewildered as to how they even manage to survive to adulthood in others. I think the bigger issue is that he has a master's degree in math and works for TSA. This story is in good faith. I was asking my friend, Jay, when he learned about 9/11. He started telling me this specific story of how he walked outside and saw smoke everywhere and how he asked his mom about it. He claimed she said planes hit the towers. I stared at him, just silently taking in the story. We live in the Midwest, there was no way he saw the debris from the towers. Also, we were born in 2003. Your story reminded me of a 9/11 experience I heard from 2 college freshmen. The first guy asks his friend where he was on 9/11 and he says, Philadelphia. He was telling this guy how he saw one of the planes hit the Pentagon from Philadelphia. Then the first guy asks what the Pentagon is. The second guy says it's like a wrestling venue in New York City, SMH. He just can't keep his shapes straight. Madison Square Garden equals Pentagon equals the pyramids equals a baseball diamond equals a boxing ring. They're all just shapes. Summer camp counselor made all the kids on a school bus keep the windows up on a hot day because they could feel the air conditioning coming from the front of the bus. It was so hot and I, maybe 10 years old at the time, had to explain to the 40-year-old counselor that the air conditioning they were feeling was the wind coming in through the bus driver's open window. She still didn't believe me. I begged her to ask the bus driver to confirm the bus did not have air conditioning, but she didn't want to bother him while he was driving. It was like a 1-hour bus trip. She finally got hot enough and asked the bus driver if the bus had air conditioning, and he jokingly said the bus only has air conditioning when the windows are down and the wheels are turning. She then looked back at me and said, "See, I told you the bus had air conditioning," and proceeded to force us to keep the windows up. How does someone that dense become a teacher? If you find out, please let me know. I'd like a career change. Rolled Coworker was telling me that there's people out there that think Alaska is an island. I laughed in disbelief, but another coworker overheard and was flabbergasted. What? It's not, but it's always drawn off to the side with Hawaii. Point made. Another time a guy with a really thick accent walked in. Same girl was like, "Oh wow, I like your accent. Where are you from?" Said guy, "Have a guess." Her response, "Haviguis? I've never heard of that place before," and walked away. She is super sweet, just slightly oblivious. Haviguis ain't no country I ever heard of. They speak English in Haviguis? Does he look like a bish? Haviguis. How much is a $50 worth? She was the newest teller my boss hired. Will never forget that moment. I've gotta say, I've said some dumb crap when I first start a new job. It's easy to go into I know nothing mode while also being so stressed your brain stops working. Yeah, I guess, but a bank teller asking how much money a coin is worth was pretty concerning. It wasn't her first day, even her first week. She was very dumb. This is just the dumbest thing she said that wasn't racist. We were talking about the Irish potato famine in college, and this one girl said, "Oh wow, I thought it was the potato family." As if that wasn't enough, she later asked why were they so eager to get jobs? If I was that hungry I wouldn't even try to get a job. Man, I wish I was joking. Oddly, she's so dumb she is smart. Jobs were net calorie drains during the potato famine. Many Irish died as they worked themselves to death. Also, the food they earned went to their kids, so the work did save them. Bleak times. Also, for those who don't know, the famine was an artificial economic creation of the British, and not a natural famine. Well, there really was a blight, but that on its own isn't really a famine. Classmate was convinced that winning the lottery is 50% chance because you either win it/not. In last year of high school, even though it's obvious, I want to put it into words. Probability is not equal for each possibility. Well, I don't know. You're either right or you're wrong here. So the way I see it, there's a 50/50 chance that's correct. There was a girl in my high school who forced the teacher to pause a documentary about people living in mud huts in Africa because she was upset that they were showing us fictional movies in a history class. It took everyone else in the room to convince her that people actually live like that in some places. Wealthy area living for ya. Funny, in part because it's usually other way around. People who don't believe that there are modern cities in many countries in Africa. It's funny too. At least in a lot of Africa you can legally make your own home out of shanty, mud, and sea-ape. Here in the West we just make people sleep in the street and pat ourselves on the back for not having low quality housing. At least the people in shanties and mud huts have something. I'm an identical twin and have been asked all manner of utterly ridiculous questions about it throughout my life. But I think the stupidest was when a girl once asked me, "Do you ever get yourselves mixed up with each other?" I responded, "Are you asking me if I ever sometimes think I'm my brother?" She replied, "Yeah. No, I don't. My brother and I used to work as grocery baggers. One day, we're working adjacent checkouts. A customer saw us and asked if we were twins. I answered yes, and her follow-up question was mind-blowing. Are you brothers? No ma'am, just twins." I work retail. Had a customer a few weeks back pull her mask down to cough into the open air and then pull it back up. Really makes you wonder why there are people like this in the world. I want to ask these people why they did that, then explain that they are wearing the mask for that exact reason, to protect others. But I'd be worried that they'd just be like, "Oh, this is to protect others, not me. So you're saying I don't need to wear the mask at all?" A friend of mine shared that she saw a woman pull down her mask to cough. while in the waiting room of a covered testing center. Human stupidity is a bottomless well. My friend is allergic to walnuts. One day, he made this sandwich in our college dorm. It had walnuts garnished on top of the bread. I then remember him telling me, "Oh look, there's walnuts on here," and proceeds to eat the entire sandwich. At the time I didn't know he was allergic. I leave to shower, and when I come back there are 2 paramedics in our dorm taking him out on a stretcher. The following day I asked what happened, to which he replies something along the line, "I accidentally ate some walnuts which I am allergic to, and by the time I went to get a Benadryl, my throat had started to close and I couldn't swallow it, so I had to call 911. I was just utterly shocked how he even let this entire situation happen. I really couldn't believe it. He had known there were walnuts on the bread and still ate it? College days, am I right? Once at my old job a coworker came out the back, and I offered him some chocolate someone had dropped off for us. He thanked me and popped it in his mouth, and then chewed it for a bit and cheerfully asked me, "Oh, do you know if there's nuts in this? By the way, I'm allergic to them, so I shouldn't really be eating chocolate." I was like, what? I've literally never seen a bar of chocolate that didn't contain the "may have traces of nuts" warning. Why are you eating this? And he goes, "Oh yeah, good point," and spat it into the bin, and then happily wandered back out the front like nothing had happened. In fairness, that warning is on literally everything. It's legalese bullcrap that companies just plaster on everything to satisfy their lawyers, just in case some worker on the plant floor had a particularly messy peanut butter sandwich that day or something. I've got a friend who has a deadly nut and soy allergy. If she paid any attention to those warnings, she'd have to start her own farm in order to eat anything. So I was talking to one of my online friends about global warming for whatever reason. I said that my mom ran into an old high school friend that didn't even believe that there was trash in the ocean. We live like 10 minutes from the beach, so you can clearly see evidence of trash coming in from the ocean. Anyways, my online friend one-upped me and said they met someone who believed in global warming, but they were in support of it. I've heard that a few times. An older relative says it's part of Revelation and she's eager for it to come. The earth destroyed by fire and all that. Imagine rooting for Earth to be destroyed and thinking, yeah, Christ will totally let me into his kingdom. I grew up in a country where English is not the first language. One day in elementary school we had to write an essay in our English class. I wanted to score an A, so I added a beautiful sentence with some very elaborate words towards the end. The teacher marked nothing wrong, but that particular sentence. She said it wasn't grammatically correct. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I straight up copied that entire sentence verbatim from an English textbook published by Oxford. So you got the right grade for the wrong reason. I once got a B for a paper that I totally plagiarized in high school. The problem was, I came up with my topic before I figured out that I was going to plagiarize it. The assigned paper was 5 pages. The paper I tried to steal was a 35-page academic paper for someone's graduate program in biology, but it was the only paper I could find on my topic. I spent over a week trying to edit that 35-page paper down into a 5-page high school level paper. My teacher knew I didn't write it, but I think he could tell I still spent so much time trying to pass it off as kind that he didn't bother to call me out on it. He just took it, looked at it, read a few pages, and then looked at me like, why on earth did you do this? To be fair, I never tried to plagiarize again after that. Cheating was way harder than writing my own paper.